Hello, hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to the Lunar New Year. It's February 2022. I am your host, Dr. Andrea Pennington, and I'm so excited to be back here live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube simultaneously, thanks to my wonderful 𝐿𝐴M software. Let me know. Type into the chat. Where are you in the world? Yes, 2222. Karen Joy, I know you're in America. Yes. Hello, Gerd. Lovely to be connected to you again. I assume you're in Norway. Let me know. I'm assuming you all can hear me very well. Yes? Super excited. Super excited to be back. It's been a while since I have been live, and yeah, now I'm committed. I am back in my flow after taking some time off for family and holidays and regrouping all of what I've been up to. What's up, Trevor in Cali, who's over there on YouTube watching. So we've got Facebook and YouTube. Is anybody on LinkedIn watching? Type into the chat, let me know. And hey, Charity in Kenya, look at us. I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, thank you so very much for tuning in today. I am just, I'm ready to dive into this content. Oh, we have another Karen Joy in Abu Dhabi. Isn't this cool? We've got two Karen Joys with us on our broadcast today. Like, how cool is that? Welcome. And Lorraine in Botswana. Look at us, just growing by leaps and bounds. I absolutely love it. So if you are just tuning in for the very first time, I am Dr. Andrea Pennington. I am an integrative physician, acupuncturist, meditation teacher, and an author and speaker. I travel around the world diffusing energy and light and love to help people build resilience and nurture real self-love. I am also the founder and managing director of Make Your Mark Global. We are a boutique marketing, branding, and publishing agency, and we publish books all around the world by authors who are committed to sharing their message around personal development, spirituality, psychology, self-love, and on and on. And I'm really excited to talk to you today about a book that we published in 2020. Over here, Manifesting Love. Real life stories of conscious relationships co-created by the universe. This beautiful book is a group book. So I have contributed some content around the psychology and some of the spirituality for preparing for your love relationship. And then we have these beautiful authors from around the world who shared their personal stories of what they went through to manifest and attract their lasting love relationships. So we have a story by Karen Joy Almond and Erik Gerson in the United States, Lena Nielsen in Denmark, Leanne Wine in Canada, Karina Virginia in the United States, 𝐿𝐴 Tekens in Holland, and Margareta Tosi, who is from Holland but lives in Italia. So we have this beautiful array of these different stories, all sharing like the tips and tricks. So I thought I would get on here and share with you today some of what has helped me in my life. If you've already seen my TED Talk, or TED Talks, plural, then you probably know I grew up with a little bit of family drama and dysfunction. And what happened to me in my childhood was not terribly abusive or crazy, but it was enough to cause some challenges in relationships. And in particular, like many people I happen to know, I had attachment issues. So do you know what your attachment style is? In the chapter 2 of the book, Manifesting Love, we go through attachment styles. And see, basically what this means is, for most of us, our attachment style starts off from childhood. It can change and be modified as you mature and have healthy relationships, but it starts off in childhood. And we create our attachment style based on how our caregivers treated us. So if you had a very loving, attentive, present caregiver who came and looked after you, then you might have what we call secure attachment. You feel comfortable coming to your caregiver. For most people, it's their parent or their grandparents, whoever was taking care of you. If they were attentive, if they came when you cried, when you needed food or when you needed changing, or if you hurt yourself, if they were open and present, not 100% of the time, because I don't know any parent that gets it 100, but for most of the time, then we develop a secure attachment style, meaning we can feel secure when we're in their presence. We seek out our caregivers for love and attention, but we also feel secure enough that when you get to that toddler age, you can go off on your own, explore, and feel safe knowing that there's a home base to come back to. So if you know your attachment style, feel free to type it into the chat. Now, I happened to grow up in a family where there was a little bit of drama when I was a baby, and ultimately my parents got divorced when I was 3 years old. And I happen to have a mother who is an immigrant from South America. She was born in British Guyana and immigrated to the United States after doing nursing school in England. And unfortunately, my mother lost her mom. So I never got to meet my maternal grandmother because she died when my mom was just 11 years old. She died of complications of type 2 diabetes. And when I heard my mother talk about how much she loved her mom and missed her mom, it created a real rupture for my mother growing up. And so that created a bit of tension and a lack of parenting knowledge for my mother that sprinkled down to her children. And I say all of that to say that she didn't have the same resources that we have today in terms of getting counseling and therapy. She came from a very proud family, and it was just like, suck it up, move on, and get on with your life. And she really brought that energy into my world. But what's also interesting is that when my mother was in medical school, I was just 2 years old. So that's quite a load of studying and hospital rounds. And so in the very beginning of my life, I was always in my dad's arms because he could organize his schedule so that he was taking care of me, and then he would work night shifts when she was home. So if you can imagine how it would be to be in my dad's arms and seeing my mom at night, and then they got divorced and my mother moved to Denver, Colorado. So all of a sudden, I had lost one of my principal attachment figures. And ultimately, it took years until I found this out. Literally, I was in my 30s when I started discovering attachment styles. And I discovered that I had this insecure, kind of clingy attachment style. Early on in relationships, I would literally feel this sense of like wanting to make sure that the person was into me. And sadly, sometimes by the time we were like fully committed, I didn't know what to do with all that love and attention. So I literally got out of or sabotaged relationships. And so this brings me back to manifesting love. In manifesting love, I've given you a general overview of attachment style so you can see where you fit. And I've in chapter 1, we go through your relationship history. So I want you to check in, because this is one of the things I had to do in order to prepare for a conscious soul connection, a love relationship. And so by understanding my childhood attachment, which was somewhat insecure, there's a third, and there's some subtype flavors, but there's another attachment style that we call avoidant. And I should say all of these attachment styles were discovered and described by doing this thing that they called this crazy stranger experiment, where they take a mother and a toddler, usually a year to 18 months old, and put them in this room with some little toys. And then a stranger, a person that the child didn't know, would come in, talk to the mom, and leave, and then come back in, talk to the child, the mom would leave, and the researchers on the other side would be watching, how does this child react? Is the child scared of this stranger, or do they scream and cry after the mom? And essentially, children with a healthy attachment would kind of get a little bit upset, but they would typically settle down. And then when the mom came back, they would run and get a hug and feel safe and secure again. For people with an insecure attachment, they would just go nuts when the mom left the room with the stranger. They would scream and they would cry and they would not be easy to settle down. And then when mom came back, they would run and come for some comfort. But the insecure or avoidant style is a child who, when the mom left, they might be a little bit upset, kind of look at the stranger with a little bit of hesitation, maybe even cry. But when the mom returned, they wouldn't run and get a hug. In fact, some of them would just sort of be mean and sort of snub the mother. And so this avoidant style is someone who, we know that the child needs this comfort, but something in that parenting or attachment relationship had gotten impressed upon the child that it wasn't safe and that it was unreliable. So when a parent is unreliable in their caregiving and parenting and attachment, then it can develop one of these types. So I say all of that to say that it's really helpful if you know your attachment style, because when we look at chapter 3 in the book, Manifesting Love, I cover some of the blocks to healthy relationships. And this was true in my case. Until I went in and healed those wounds from my inner child that still was having all of these sort of daddy attachment issues, I was getting into relationships that were, of course, destined to fail. So nobody's typing in the chat. Can y'all still hear me? Can you give me a thumbs up? Are you still with me here? So the first chapter is about your relationship history. For me, this was an eye-opener in my self-love journey to really kind of map out the most significant relationships and write down like what attracted me to these men, what went wrong, was it my fault? Thank you, Charity, for letting me know you can hear me. Were there red flags? Were there little signs that maybe I ignored or downplayed? So this is another key in my self-love journey in preparing for a healthy, conscious relationship. It is identifying red flags. So again, going back to our childhood, I was fascinated as a young physician to work with people who had eating disorders and addiction. And as we started to do the trauma recovery work, we started uncovering patterns. Well, I should say my patients did. They could also identify where they had fallen into very similar patterns, whether that was in relationships or work or in their treatment to their health. And what we identified is that some of us are attracted to very familiar scenarios. So it may be that you literally are trying to finish the unfinished business of childhood. So, for example, for me with the attachment wound of my parents' divorce and being separated from my father, there was always this sense of looking for love from the outside, looking for validation, because that was also a dynamic in my family that safety and validation and love was very contingent upon me being the good girl and following the rules. And so when that was gone, as I matured, I started to look for that validation in other people. Not just in love relationships, but at work and at school and all of that. And so once I was able to do a relationship review and identify that, then I could go in and do that inner child healing work to really tune in to say, okay, I get it. Little toddler Andrea has still been looking for that love. Let's heal that. Because the good news is, even if you have an attachment injury, and then you have maybe a secure or avoidant attachment style, you can heal that. You can improve over time. And of course, if you happen to have a great relationship somewhere from childhood or adolescence onward, then you can also overwrite that sort of programming. Okay, so I'm going to get to questions in a minute. Here, let's see. So Elena asks, were the men that you met unavailable who left you after? I'm not sure I understand the question. But if you're talking about unavailability, I will say that one trend that I identified by doing this relationship review is yes, I did find that I was attracted to somewhat distant men, which is obvious. Like, my father was physically distant. He lived in Nevada, I lived in Colorado. And my father was never a overtly emotional guy. So I did notice in my relationship history that I was often attracted to men who were either emotionally distant or physically distant. And 𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐻, of course, you can recognize your attachment style. 𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐻 is also one of the contributing authors in one of our books, Holistic Healing, who really talked about, and resilience, talked about how you, 𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐻, experienced this attachment wound. So I'll leave it to you all to read her entry in our book. But it was really quite impressive how doing this investigative work to understand what happened. And in 𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐻's situation, she was hospitalized as a toddler. And the way that the family dynamic was, and the hospital being far away, she was left there. And that definitely can impact us all. You know, being left in the hospital, or sometimes a parent is the one who's hospitalized and away from home, and that can create challenges. Yeah. All right. So that was one of the things I wanted you to be aware of. Your attachment style, your relationship history, to see what kind of people are you attracted to. Are there common factors that you can trace back to childhood? So when I really stumbled into recognizing my attachment and my attraction patterns, it was in my early 30s, and my dear friend 𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐻 gave me this book called Getting the Love You Want by Harville Hendrix and his wife, Helen Kelly LaHunt. Okay, I don't remember. Sorry. But in this book, Getting the Love You Want, it was the first time that I understood this concept of the imago. In other words, Harville developed this theory that we as young, impressionable babies and toddlers develop an ideal image, imago. And it is a composite, or it's a mix of the positive and negative traits of our caregivers. So it's not just the negative, but some of the positive traits of our caregivers or our parents will be attracted to. And it's all subconscious. It's not like we're actively saying, yeah, this guy looks like my abusive father or my emotionally distant mother. Let me go after that. It's not conscious. But there's something within us that wants to complete the business of the past. And so if there was always this lack of love or lack of attention or whatever in our household, we will often have this unconscious image that we're searching into the outside world to fulfill so that we can finish the unfinished business of childhood. So for me, it was fascinating because as I started doing work with addiction and trauma, I found people who recognized that they were always being attracted to a narcissist or an abusive person or someone who abused substances or someone who was violent. And when they traced it back, they're like, oh yeah, why did I not see those red flags? Why did I not recognize those signs as danger? It's because if those things were similar to experiences in your childhood, then you most likely just felt like, oh, this is familiar. And the way humans are wired, we tend to favor things that are familiar, even if they can be dangerous for us. So that is one of the key things for me that was really helpful in uncovering the blocks to giving and receiving love. And yes, Dahlia, I love this. The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. It's another great book and wonderful. Yeah, and so the 5 love languages. So let's jump to one of the chapters in the book, Manifesting Love, is about uncovering your blocks to giving and receiving love. And sometimes it's a mismatch of styles. So that could be a mismatch of your attachment style, meaning I might be that clingy, dependent person, and you might fall for someone who's kind of avoidant, who just wants their space. That's a mismatch and can cause a lot of challenges. But you may also find that there's friction if your love languages don't match up. And so this great book on the 5 love languages identifies if you are a person who favors giving or receiving love based on quality time that you spend with your beloved, words of affirmation, saying kind things that lift you up, gifts, acts of kindness, or physical touch. So each of these are different love languages, meaning how do you feel loved? Now, if you end up with someone, and let's say that words of affirmation is your number one love language, you might be tending to tell people, oh, you're so beautiful. Oh, you're so thoughtful, giving compliments and like trying to lift them up. But if that's not their love language, it might be nice to hear, but it doesn't make them feel loved. Whereas maybe it's quality time. And rather than giving gifts, there are some people that are like, forget all the expensive gifts, just be here with me. Like really focused and present with some quality time. So it's important for us to uncover from the past what have been our blocks to receiving. So mismatched attachment styles, mismatched love languages, unspoken expectations was a big one. And the fourth one that we cover in the book are unhealed wounds. If you know anything about me, I'm also the founder of the Real Self-Love Movement. And on the second Tuesday of the month, I host a live Zoom call for our entire community. We have a couple thousand people in the community. And every month, I host this live to talk about one topic, and then I lead a guided meditation that is called the attunement meditation. It is healing, and it's outlined in my book, The Real Self-Love Handbook. And the attunement meditation process will really help you uncover anything that's in your subconscious that may be blocking you to giving and receiving love, to feeling loved, to feeling worthy. And this was a big part of my healing journey. And Charity says, do the patterns change with age? Because you think you're a different one now. They absolutely can. As we are on a healing journey, if we are working on ourselves, maybe you've been to therapy, you've been doing self-help work, you can mature. So if you were an insecure or an avoidant attachment style, you can mature and grow and heal into a secure attachment style. It absolutely can change. It can also go the opposite way. You might have started out secure, but you might have one or a couple of really painful relationships that might make you become more insecure or avoidant. So it can definitely change over time. All right. So, Dahlia, your love language is giving gifts, and it's hard to match with someone who has physical touch as their love language. Yeah, it's a critical one. It is. So, I want to move to something that we cover in chapter 4 of manifesting love. And these are what we consider the essential elements for manifesting. The first one is vision and intention. So I was recently interviewed by Barbara Santen on her online secrets to online dating show. And one of the things I highly recommend is creating a vision. What is the vision for your relationship? Because if we don't have a vision, how are you going to know if somebody really matches it? Because if we don't have a vision, then we're driven by our unconscious programming. And so having a vision and setting an intention for what you want to manifest is ingredient number 1. And one of the stories in the book, Manifesting Love by Karen Joy Allman and Eric Gerson, is called Accidentally on Purpose. And it's hilarious because the two of these characters are both masters in manifesting. But the way they set their intention and their vision was completely at odds, and yet they matched, they ended up together. Another of the essential elements to manifesting love that we cover in the book is your space. And we have a beautiful story by Lena Nielsen in Denmark, and she talks about making room for love again. And this involved decluttering and even using feng shui in her home. So Lena had been divorced and caring for her son as a single parent, and eventually got to this point where she was ready to have love again, find love. And a friend said, it's going to be kind of hard for someone to come into your space when this is, the same house with the same energy from when you were married. And that led her on a whole path that you'll read in her story, which was quite extensive. But one of the key things that I really picked up on from her story is about feng shui. Maybe because I studied Chinese medicine and acupuncture, and because my first wellness center, I hired a feng shui master to come in before the builders even came in to organize the flow and the space for our wellness center. And so for me personally, I wanted to bring a picture, but I didn't take it. But there's a spot in your home and each room of your house, and some people will even use feng shui principles for their desk. But there's something called a bagua. And the bagua has these different areas of your physical space that correspond to different areas of your life. One of those areas is love and relationships. So one of the things that I did is in my bedroom, since I spend a lot of time in my bedroom, I cleared a space. And it's on the bagua, it's in the area of love and relationships. And I put this beautiful water thing that's like two lovers together. My daughter painted this beautiful thing full of hearts, and I have that there. And before this interview, the book Manifesting Love was in there. So I had this energy and this intention. And when I look at that space, I would just tune into my vision, the ideal vision of what I wanted to feel and experience and exchange in a love relationship. And for other people, it might be even more practical, like it was with Lena, like clearing out the house if you're looking to invite someone into your physical space. So cleaning up a space and getting rid of the old leaves room and openness for the new. And that includes your heart. One of the other essential ingredients is time. Are you actually available? Do you actually have time for a relationship? Because if you're saying you want to manifest that, then you need to give a sign to the universe, to the soul of your beloved, that yes, I'm going to have quality time to spend with you. And we have a great story about finding self-love by Leanne Wine from Canada. And she's an amazing therapist as well. And in her story, she talked about ending a relationship and a painful breakup, but then taking the time to heal herself, to really find that self-love, and to kind of clear out the space to be ready to manifest love again. And happily, she's married and has a wonderful relationship. So that's great. The last element that we talk about in the book is surrender. Now, yes, when it comes to manifesting, I want you to have a vision, I want you to set your intentions, make the time, clear the space, and then you have to surrender. You have to have faith. And for me, I honestly have told other people that there came a point where I did lose my faith. There did. I was doing online dating. I was trying everything I knew to do, and I just wasn't connecting with someone who had everything that I was looking for, and maybe I guess I wasn't a match either. And I started to give up. I started to lose faith. But I will say that by being around other people who have beautiful relationships, it helped me a lot. And so in the book, Manifesting Love, the chapter on surrender and faith, we have two stories. One is by a beautiful yogi and empowerment guru, Karina Virginia. You've seen her maybe on my show before. We've done retreats together. And Karina's story is called, I Knew I Loved You Before I Met You. And it's a beautiful story about faith and surrender. And I'll leave it to you to read it, but these two stories in the book are by two powerful women. The other story in this chapter is by 𝐿𝐼𝐚𝐧𝐢𝐿. She's the Jungian psychotherapist in Holland. And this love story was meant to be is the title of her chapter. And if you check out my YouTube channel, I not only did an interview with 𝐿𝐼𝐚𝐧𝐢𝐿, but I also did one with her husband, because the story is just that crazy. And both of these stories are about women who were ready for love, but were also kind of pushing away and kind of like, I don't know. And this is important because in 𝐿𝐼𝐚𝐧𝐢𝐿's case, she had family dynamics that impacted the way she was showing up in relationships when she was at university. And when her beautiful husband, Kees, arrived on the scene, she was just kind of like, no, I don't have time. She was just kind of shutting it down, shutting it down, shutting it down. And the reason I'm telling you this is that through the course of time, she healed whatever that resistance was, and they're married. They have now a beautiful grandchild that was born in COVID. But the important message is here is that you don't have to be 100% perfectly healed in order to manifest love. It may require intense faith and perseverance on the part of your partner, as was the case with Case. So Case Pauling, who's also a beautiful author and an author's coach, in his telling of the story, I mean, he really had to be persistent because from the moment he met her, he knew she was the one. So I think you'll really enjoy these stories. And for me, being around people who are in healthy relationships has been really helpful for me because I didn't have that modeled in my childhood. I didn't have people growing up around me who had really solid, delicious looking relationships for me to have a model in my head. And I often share this story that in 2018, my daughter and I were in India with a group of people at the Brahma Kumari's ashram with Sister Dr. Jenna. And there were some couples that I got to watch. We were there for a week. And so seeing, there's a lot you go through when the first time you go to India, the food and, so many things. And I saw these couples, each of them with a lot of character and fire, each kind of caring for themselves and working through this journey. And I thought, I want some of that. And I believe if these two people could be joined in holy union and last through all the ups and downs, then surely that must exist for me. So that faith for me came from recognizing that somewhere on this planet of 7 billion people, there's got to be at least one. And that added to my faith. And also in that year, my dear friend Helena Philipson married her beloved David Morris in Copenhagen. And we were there for the wedding. And again, seeing these two very spirited people come together, it gave me faith. And so that is one of the essential elements to manifesting love. And finally, the last chapter of the book, Manifesting Love, is about creating your manifesting ceremony. So many people that I know have created rituals. They have literally taken the time to set the stage. When you read this story by Margareta Tosi, she manifested the love of her life, Daniele, at the age of 35. So talk about not giving up. And when she felt like she was ready, she had done a lot of self-love work as well and healing as well. And when she felt ready, she designed this elaborate ritual, put on a beautiful dress and lit candles and had music playing and wrote exactly what she wanted and got into the feeling state of what it would be like to be in that loving relationship. And not long after, she met Daniele and they got married. And now they have this beautiful daughter, Megan. I just saw them a couple months ago in Italy. So these are some of the essential elements that have worked and kept us inspired and kept the faith. So I hope that this has been helpful to you. I do hope you'll get a copy of the book and watch the interviews on YouTube to see the energy behind some of these people. I was very grateful to my friend JJ at Rhythmia, John Jacob, who put me in touch with Michael Bernard Beckwith, who wrote the foreword to Manifesting Love. So this book is full of gems. It's full of beautiful energy that will help you align yourself, your space, and connect with the soul of your beloved. So I can't wait to hear if there are any people out there who've already done some of these rituals, or if you will tune in and do it. I mean, why not? Why not now? This is a new year. We are right now in this lunar new year. Today is February 2nd, 2022. It's like a portal. Why not set your intention and tune in to what you really feel you want and deserve? And be honest, if there's stuff you need to work through, that's okay. Own it. You can heal it. And then call forth your beloved if you believe that you're truly, truly ready. I believe it works. I've seen magic. I'm living a magical story as we speak. And I feel like, why not? We deserve it. We deserve to have the best in life. Yeah? All right, so if you have questions, I'm happy to take them. So Dahlia asks, would you advise asking up front a new person what someone's attachment style or love language is? Absolutely. It's about knowing yourself first, right? So if you know yourself, if you know your love language, then why not? Ask. I mean, at least that one is not very invasive. Some people might be like, my attachment style. Of course, you can take online quizzes. They're totally free and identify your attachment style. The 5 love languages, you can take a little free quiz to find out your attachment style. I personally, a few years ago, I wrote a song called 20 Questions, and I hosted a radio show with several people in the US. And one of our guests advised that you ask the challenging questions up front. Now, of course, this is based on your personality. If you're going to be someone who's going to be digging and wanting to know the depths of the individual you're going to be partnered with, then what does it hurt to ask? I mean, if they are turned off, then you know that's not someone for you, if that's your nature. I mean, speaking from experience, this is my nature. I mentioned that my mother grew up in British Guyana. One of the things we heard at home is children ought to be seen, not heard. So I was always quiet, but I was observant. And when I could engage with people, I don't engage in small talk. I want to go deep. I want to know what's in your heart and your mind. What is your vision for the world and the future? And so I ask a lot of questions. And I have definitely been on dates where someone is like, damn, you ask a lot of questions. And that's okay, because it's not going to go away. So I am of the mind to be your authentic self right up front. Don't hide. Don't try to play one version and then become something else later. In that song that I wrote, 20 Questions, it was like, I don't want your representative. I think it was Chris Rock that made it famous. He was like, why is it that people go out on dates, but they don't go? They send their representative. It's the person who's on their best behavior and saying what you think the other person wants to hear just till you get them. And then 6 months in, you become another person? No. I say, be your authentic self. Be who you truly are to the fullest extent so that you are vibrating, you are putting out the energy of who you are. And if that does not resonate for that person, so be it. Wish them well, let them go. It's not personal, because ultimately you want to be with someone who is meant to be with you, right? Yes. I'm with you, Sandra D. Makes sense. Find out up front. Time is precious. Absolutely. Ooh, don't even get me started on time. My time is precious. When my very dear friend, Valeria, in Nice, told me to get on these dating apps, she's like, look, you're not going to meet anybody over there sitting in Cannes. You know, it's a great town, but the normal inhabitants, people who aren't just flying in for events, there's not a lot for me to choose from. And one of the things that I did when I first started online dating is I set my little parameters that I will only meet in the daytime, out for tea, not dinner, not anything long and extensive, because ultimately I can feel energy. And if in those first few minutes it's not showing some promise, maybe it's harsh, I don't know, but for me, that was my rule. No dinners, no nighttime, because my time is precious. And now I've graduated to, I'm just giving you all my secrets. I'll be, if it's on an app, we need to have a video conversation first within the app. You're not getting my digits. And I can see, I can feel. That's me. And yes, you need the 20 questions. Absolutely, Dahlia. I need to record that song. It was a great kind of R&B song. And I had envisioned the music video. Anyway, I digress. And yes, Sandra D, this will be replayed. It'll be available on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn immediately after. Well, actually, YouTube takes a little bit of time to encode it, but yes, you will. So, Trevor says, I had a bit of insecurity, rejection, anxious avoidant, shutting down emotionally, and anxious preoccupied, hypersensitive, tend to worry about other partners' ability to love me back. That's quite a combination. And many of us who've grown up in dysfunctional families or families where there was drama and trauma, that's kind of what we have to work with. But I'm very glad to hear that you're better now. Keep on keeping on, because yeah, we can all heal, we can all evolve, and there is a beloved for you out there. I truly believe that. I really do. Yeah, I know. And thank you, Cinders, for typing in. British Guyana is not a pretty place, unfortunately. There's French Guyana that did much better after colonial rule by the French, but the British Guyana, not so much. Yay, Gerd. Thank you. She says, I have given you new hope. Read the book, tune in, do all of these little rituals and practices, and don't give up. Absolutely don't give up. Well, my friends, this has been such a joy to meet with you. Please get yourself a copy of the book, Manifesting Love. If you do need to do some healing, then get the Real Self-Love Handbook. This will help you work through those attachment injuries. You can also join me next Tuesday. The second Tuesday of the month, I go live in the Real Self-Love community. You can find out all about it at andreapennington.com. It's totally free, and it's a very helpful community, live sessions, guided meditations, and all sorts of downloads to help you heal on your journey. And guess what? Wednesdays are now going to be my days to go live. I will be going every other week live here on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And I'm also going to be going live on Insight Timer. So if you haven't already, follow me on Insight Timer. You can find the link if you go to andreapennington.com or go to insighttimer.com/Dr. Andrea, and you'll find several of my guided meditations. As of February 16th, I'm also going to be going live on Insight Timer. So you can ask me questions, you can listen in, and then you'll find all sorts of support materials. I'm also developing a resilience course for Insight Timer. So if you are a Plus member, you will get my 10-day course to help you build up resilience. And in April, I'm going to be doing live workshops on the Insight Timer app. Doesn't matter if you don't have the app, you can also join and just listen to it on your laptop or your computer. All right? So, super excited. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching on the replay, thank you for watching all the way through. Type into the chat #replay, and we will respond to your comments as well. So, my dear friends, until we meet again, please remember that you are a gift to the world. So share your presence with passion. Much love, everyone. Much love. Much love.